All right, guys. Good morning on this snow-filled Friday here, man. We've got so much snow out here that I look out the window that they went in and called off work. So I get to make a video during daylight and actually have time to make one. Okay. So as I start the journey northward and stuff, it's kind of time to kind of like look back at the beginning of the comic book community here and stuff. I kind of consider myself part of if not the second wave of comic book YouTubers that were here, maybe the 1.5. I kind of think I came in right in the middle there because what happened was I had no idea. 5 years ago, I had no idea that there'd be a community here. And going with a grain of salt of memory here, maybe it was there 9 months before I got there. Uh, Looking back on it, of course, everyone considers Captain Strangelove as the person who started all this and stuff, and the people who were there or jumped right on board were people like Dakin Howlett, Constant Bromstar, CTC Spirit, Aztec One, Kektai 88, 123 Comic Man, Gene Paul, Ace Peter had been around, and there's a few people that have been around that are still there, and I can go on and on. And everybody that made videos back then and stuff, honestly, the way I remember it, 80 views about what you got, but it wasn't about the views and things like that. It was about people who had been long-term time collectors, and they had jumped onto YouTube and they had found each other. And what had happened was is I was found, because when I started out, all I was doing is that at the time I was living with someone, and we had just moved in, and all this stuff here, was getting put into a closet in the boxes and stuff, right? And I was just making videos, one at a time, one video, one box. So if I wanted to find something, I would label the box 1 through 26 or whatever it was back then, and I expect to be able to just look in that video and see what was in there, and no big deal. But two people found me that I recall. I'm sure other people started commenting, but I didn't know what to make of it, man. Captain Strangelove was sitting there talking about some of the books I was showing. Bromstar was all excited about Kirby. I was a Kirby guy, and I remember the first video that I clicked on there was probably, it was a Captain Strangelove video, but I know the second one right after that was Constant Bromstar, and he was like, "We got somebody here, and he's a Kirby man," and I was like, "Holy shit." So that's the part that I'm getting back to. Even by going forward, it's kind of like going back to the beginning, man. It was like people who had been collecting comics had been doing this for a while, and it was just on YouTube, and it took me a little while to, kind of get comfortable and do it. And I feel like my channel, as much as it could have, broke when I did the John Byrne She-Hulk thing. And that's where I'm talking about the books, the character, a little bit of the history, and there's always throwing things out there. And I built the channel on doing things like I get books for cheap, man. I don't play around with and stuff. It's flea markets and stuff. I collected since 1977, and then when the prices went up in the 90s and kept going up, I started figuring out different ways to do it and started getting good stuff. And for a little bit there, I did, in the mid 90s, I got into how much the comics were worth, the value, flipping them and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with that, but it made me miserable. And I ended up going back and reading things like Sword of the Atom and these little gems that people just didn't read, and what was so fantastic. And one of the things I loved about the comics and stuff was that if you followed a writer, they would take certain characters and put them in any book they worked on. John Byrne has this fantastic little mini story about the Super Scroll that traveled from Fantastic Four to Alpha Flight, and I think it ended in Iron Fist. And this was over years that he did this. You could follow the travels of the Super Scroll, popping up in these books. So when we get here and the community kind of started, it was going on, and pretty much everybody knew each other. New people were coming in, people who were just getting into collecting were in here, and they were putting it up, and it was so much fun to watch these newer collectors pick up on books. Commandy took off, Jack Kirby kind of took off, and people were coming in. Just a real good feeling, but it was small. That's why you could do this, and it was so cool as a more seasoned collector to see people and be a little bit envious that they get to go back and read things for the first time, like Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, and discover these new books and be excited and talk about it. I would kill to be able to go read Neil Gaiman's Sandman for the first time, to read The Dark Knight Returns for the first time, to read Watchmen for the first times, and things like that. So that's kind of how it was a give and take thing. They would hear about books they never knew about, hear about a little bit of the back history here and stuff like that. It was great. It was about collecting. And then the thing just grew, and there was other things for people that were there that, you know, and all that things, and it just kind of broke off. And over the years, you know, my perspective of kind of watching this, that yeah, there have been people turned off with the idea of community. It's just too big. So now when I say community, you know, of course it kind of umbrellas anybody that's making YouTube videos and stuff like that, comics. We also get labeled by outsiders who are in other communities and video game communities and stuff. They come in, and it seems like it's just an umbrella that pops up in anything on YouTube, in my opinion, stuff. But when I say community, I can still say that word without rolling my eyes, because I get people that feel like they haven't been part of a community. I get that people have just been amazed at things here, that how can this be a community? I get that people have had some bad experiences and stuff, right? But where I've been fortunate is that the community that I kind of talk about when I'm with it is what affects me. And there's people I talk to on the phone. There's tons of people that I've met outside of this. There's been people that have recognized me from it, and we talk. So when I talk community, I'm also kind of talking about the people off of YouTube here that's here. And you end up kind of talking more to other people, and some people find other people and they go on, and it turns into, like I've always described it, I've got about 4 or 5 videos where I've mentioned there's neighborhoods here I've never been down and stuff like that. So when I'm talking community, you know, it's not, I think you kind of get it. It's the community that I see that's around me. And that's what you can control, you know, and it's what you can check out and stuff, right? So when it comes to like views and subscribers and stuff, that's kind of why I never got into that. I kind of compare that to my little, getting caught up in that, I compare that to my little era in the 90s of worrying about how much my books were worth and things like that, and it just made it miserable, you know. It was so much fun to have people, hey, look, I show a book, and then they pop up in their video, and they're like, I was watching this video, and he mentioned this book, and here's what I can add to it, and he got this right, and he was wrong, and people could get corrected, and they wouldn't lose their minds. It was like, oh, cool, man, I didn't know that, if you follow me, okay? So now, with all that community talk and a little history and kind of starting at the beginning, where we're at now, okay? Where we're at now is last month, I had a few packages come in without me knowing they were coming from some community members. So I'll be doing some shout outs in a minute here and stuff, right? And the first thing that came was I got a text from Scott X1307. Go check out his video, right? And he gave me a heads up there was a package, so I went and picked it up. And this is what he made me, handmade me, right? He got a picture frame. He's colored it gray. He's taken a comic book panel and he's I've glued it on there with a coating and stuff like that. And this is the coolest freaking gift I've ever gotten, right? Look at that. Page out of New Gods, Dark Side, Kirby Goodness, everything that is there. Man, so thank you so much, Scott. When I opened this up, it just made my freaking day. I was like, I sat there. I've actually carried this in the car and taken it to work and shown it off. And shown it off to my friends. We may have to go to the movie or something. I'm like, hey, look what I got, man. This is so freaking cool. So thank you so much, right? And then I got another package in from the great Steve Ogden, longtime viewer, great guy. We kind of watch how we talk on the phone because it turns into 2, 3, our phones die. One of our phones die. Or usually it's mine, I think. You know, we talk so much getting into this stuff, remembering and the collecting and the comics and the characters and things that are going on. And it's just, you know, the last conversation we had cracked me up because he was like, oh man, geez, you know, we've been on here for 2 hours. I need to go upstairs and tell the wife, you know, I love her and stuff. You know, he had to go spend time with his wife, you know. So it was great, right? So this is what he sent me. And Steve is just a really great guy, man. I'm probably finally going to go up there and see him in Baltimore sometime this year, probably after the summer. This is what I'm thinking. And he sent me stuff. He watches the videos. He knows what I try to collect. And just out of the goodness of his heart, he just sends stuff after what, you know, just when he goes to these conventions and stuff, right? So he sent me a whole bunch of Preacher and Hellblazer stuff, I think is what it's in here. And I'm just like, you know, send me the Vertigo Jam. This is from 1993, and it's characters from the Vertigo books in the early 90s, but the theme is music and all this, man. So you have a story by Neil Gaiman about Sandman or death or something. You got Hellblazer, Shade the Changing Man. I think Animal Man's in here. The Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, Kid Eternity, great stuff like that. And the Preacher book that he got me, that just the first one out of the bat right here, man, that got me is I think it's issues 6 through 12, and it's volume 2 in trade of Preacher by Garth Ennis. But Until the End of the World is one of my top 5, what I consider one of the top, not just mine, but in comics in general, top 5 greatest comic book stories ever told. Maybe top 10, you know. But what we ended up having was, without realizing it, the origin of Jesse Custer, while he's, you know, talking about the love he has for Tulip. You know, he's going to love her until the end of the world, and he proves it. What he sent me is issue 12 here of Preacher, which is the, get the glare off there from the window, which is the final chapter of the story. Oh, man, it's just so good. Right, and then, of course, you know, he sent some others. Preacher was a book that I really was back and forth on, because by no means am I most religious man out there. You know, there's always a certain amount of respect that I think, you know, if you have it in you, you should show it and stuff, right? But the stories were so good, man, and finally, you know, you get to the point where it's an art form, it's fiction, you know. Grant Morrison is an atheist, and I was having problems with him not feeling bad about making a buck about things that touch on religious items and stuff, right? But Preacher is much more than that, right? So it's not a book I would push on people. But if you really want to see the medium of comics done at its best, it's with this, man. It gets an emotional reaction out of you. The subject matter is handled well. It's got some dark comedy in there. It's got some dark moments in there, and just the whole. It's one of the more original, if not one of the most original ideas in comics. That it's amazing to me it even got made and put out there, and it helped comics in general, you know. So yeah, so you know, thank you, Steve. There, just great stuff, and I was really happy to get this. The story of You Know Who. Can't wait to see how the TV show handles our space, because you know there's going to be some changes. And then he sent me a bunch of Hellblazer. I'm about a third way through of collecting the Hellblazer books. You know, over a third of the way through. And, you know, I get these on the cheap. I've gotten all my except for issue 1 and 2. I paid $5 for both of those. And the rest of the Hellblazer books I've gotten, I paid anywhere from 17 cents to 75 cents. So it's not just about collecting them, it's how I collect them. Okay, so, and I've done pretty good, you know. So he sent me a whole bunch of those, of the Hellblazer books. And there's so many here. I'm gonna have to go. I've already went through. There's probably only like 3 doubles in here, man. So thank you so much, Steve. You know, there'll be a Hellblazer video sometime in the future and stuff, right? Okay, now the other thing is that at the beginning of this, when I was talking about community, that's how my community works, man. There's people that send packages, and we talk on the phone every now and then. When I get a good little windfall of money there, you know, I send some things out when I can, the best I can, and go out to these conventions and meet people. And I've also actually made friends. I'm real wary of actually meeting people online, because I had a very bad experience back in around 2008. And then when I moved to Roanoke in 2009, back in the days of MySpace, I actually had 2 people track me down in Roanoke that had friended me on MySpace. You know, one was a very bad experience. The other 2 turned out for the better, but I know how lucky I am. So the fact that when YouTube popped up and there were people locally around here, I felt very lucky, given, you know, putting my baggage to the side and still being a little bit cautious and stuff, and seeing that I lucked up, man. These are comic book collectors, and generally, you know, we're just kind-hearted, kind of soft people a lot, you know, I think. You know, we're a different breed for sure as collectors, not just with comic books, with other things and stuff. So one of the first people I can think of that I actually met on here was, you know, Scott Connor. That guy actually backed up, watched all my videos, and talked online for a bit. And over, I'm thinking almost 3 years now, if I'm thinking right, maybe 3 years. It ends up, we hang out a couple times every few months, talk on Facebook quite a bit, back and forth. not as much as we should. And this guy turns around and I get a text at the beginning of end of November, beginning of December that hey man, I've already got your Star Wars ticket to go see Star Wars at an IMAX theater and stuff, which blew my mind. We've hung out quite a bit, and one day we're going to plan on doing a little tour of some comic book shops and bookstores and stuff one day, when we, win the freaking lottery or something, right? And then I got friends in real life who watch this and stuff, and there's a couple guys, and some of them I know them well, we're the same bunch, but you got guys like Tim Anderson, one of my best friends ever, and the fact that since I've moved over, away from the town we all met in and stuff, him, Daryl, who owns D&J Hobby Shop, some of these guys have been putting in my videos, Ivan, and all these guys, his brother Miles, people locally and stuff, people at the malls, people who have recognized me from videos who are actually vendors at some of these flea markets and stuff. That's also part of my community, right? So big shout out to Tim Anderson. And then before I hit the YouTube stuff here, I got a few things marked here. I want to give some people shout outs. There we go. All right, I want to give some groups and stuff a big shout out on from Facebook and stuff. These guys watch my videos and let me post there and talk about things, and some of the members kind of crisscross, man. You got the Collectors Forum by Tim Anderson, man. The Collectors Forum is a private group, real intimate kind of group. A lot of people, we know each other and stuff, and Tim will let you in and stuff after, no big deal if you want to join that. Great stuff there. The Blue Ridge Comic Book Club. Out of the Blue Ridge. I think those guys are out of Salem and out of Roanoke. I met a couple of those guys at a few conventions. Great guys. Your comic book community, that used to be the YouTube comic book community, but you can still post there, and a lot of people who still make videos are there. And then YouTube, that's what it's called, and then YouTube, right? Great place, a lot of different kind of YouTubers, man. Any kind of channel you're on, you can jump on there and people support you. The Spinner Rack. And then the new one that's come up, Gene Paul Ace Peter. I'm going blank right now. I can't remember. He invited me, but I can't remember if he's actually started it, which I think he did. You can correct me on there, man. But he's got the season. Let me get the title right. The Season Comic Book Collector Group, which is actually taken off, and it's been really cool. Then you got the Classic DC and Marvel Group, and there's a few other ones on there, right? But I don't want this to run too long. Now the thing about giving out shout outs is that this will not be the first one. I hate when I go back and I watch it and I forget somebody. It drives me freaking nuts. So some of the shout outs I want to give out there to people, check out their channels and they need to be heard and stuff. Hero Statue Collector Lou. I'm just going down the list here. This is in no particular order. Hero Statue Collector Lou. Great guy. He let me in on one of his hangouts. He invited me on one of his hangouts a few weeks ago. Just a refreshing, fun time, man. They were talking statues. They asked me a few questions about comics. They complimented my collection that they saw in the background. Just a lot of great guys, man. All right, AG Surfer, man. Looking forward to seeing your contest in, man. The Luke and Dad Show, great channel, great channel. Comic Quarter 410, man. Me and that guy talk quite a bit, man. We'll throw out Wednesday Cereal. Then we got Gimpy 204. One of the people I just want to grab and just kind of hug and, really wish that guy lived around here, man. Gimpy is so freaking funny, man. Gene Paul Ace Peter. Count Bond Strange 4. I'm going to give him a shout out. I'm going to have to check out, see if you have a channel. Collector stuff, man. Dude, the pianos, the piano sessions you were putting up on YouTube around Christmas when you did Linus and Lucy in the Charlie Brown stuff, man, I watched it over and over and pushed it on my friends. Why Not Art, man? One of those guys that's been around forever. Tony is fantastic, man. It's just always good to know that he's out there, man. Mr. Unknown Comics Guide, a person who is new to me, Punisher 88. Captain Strangelove, of course. It's good to see he's still out there. The Great Legend Show, R. Dowdy, man. The Cosmic Twin from down in Texas, brothers from different mothers, man. The John Byrne Jack Kirby connection there. Reader 1717, man. She has just Reader 1717. I take for granted how long she's been around. I always feel like she's always going to be here and stuff, man. So go show her some love. JCCJ, comic fan. Terry Hooper. Okay, then you got Ben G76 Show, the Ben G76 Show, man. Right, I've met this guy, and he's a local man and stuff like that. Great guy, great family man, real nice guy. I mean, I did, I dig seeing his pictures and stuff and little videos he does of going out with his metal detector and stuff, and seeing him get books, and just a great friendly guy. It was awesome hanging out with you. I know we're going to be doing it again. I mean, it's just going to happen. Adam Day, Don Comic Book Junkie, man, really getting some good stuff out of him on his eBay collections, man. And then you got Thuggy One. Thuggy One's another one of us seasoned guys that's been out there, man. Thuggy has made a couple videos. You need to dig for him on his channel. They're worth seeing. This guy's got so much fantastic knowledge on comics and original art that he got back in the 80s. And the story he's telling me, the ones that are coming to mind are the ones he got in the 80s when it was 15, 20 bucks for a page and stuff. He's got this fantastic Marvel Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff. I mean, just and the videos he makes, man, he gets a bunch of themed covers and makes them by theme and stuff. By holiday, by monster, by romance, just anything, just great stuff. Jess S, person who's never made videos, but it was so good to see her pop back up here. Long-time viewer. Red Vitamin Blue, just the poet of the community. Jared Osborne, man, more people need to check out his video, man, because this guy apparently has a history in comics that I would just love for him just to spill out, man. He's always doing great artwork. He's always into the indie comics. He remembers the 80s indie boom with the things he's talking about, the interesting stories. And I made a comment one time in one of my videos about how, now, I don't know, the comment was, I don't know what it takes to keep a comic book company running. And he jumped in there and said he does, and it's a mess. So this guy's got some experience working in the comic book field, behind the scenes there, I think at Marvel and stuff. I don't want to say too much because I've never bluntly just flat out and asked him. Check out his Instagram too, always putting up great art. Chad Cool, Tony 74LFC, Scott X1307, Tyler when he comes back, and like I said, I'll do another shout out video and stuff, man. But I could go on and on of the great YouTubers on here that it really does to kind of keep it focused, and they're real complimentary on when you share things, and they also will pop up and just have freaking gold in their videos too with a lot of these guys and stuff that I've checked out. Alright, let's see how long this has been going on. I haven't actually been able to sit down and just make a video where I haven't come in from work or I'm just wore out. My job kind of keeps me out of town 2 to 3 days out of the week, and it seems like every other weekend, man, I'm finally getting just to like forget work and hang out with my friends and stuff, man. So the fact that I got this under 25 minutes, that is awesome, man. Alright guys, remember, Northward Bound, make some videos, do some shout outs, show some stuff, tell some stories. Alright, later guys.